So we're going to take another look at the difference between compound and simple interest. So here is a graph that shows the difference between simple and compound interest. The blue line is if simple interest were calculated, and the red line is the compound interest. So let's, before we answer the more challenging question at the bottom, let's take a look at the scales and interpreting the graph. So what is the horizontal scale? So the horizontal scale means, what does this jump by? It goes up by every 5 years. So every tick in the graph is 5 years. What is the vertical scale? The vertical scale goes up by $100,000. What is the principal? So the principal is the amount of money that is invested at the very beginning. And so that means at the very beginning, so this is time 0, it looks like it's about $100,000. So there was $100,000 invested at the very beginning, both in a simple interest account and a compound interest account. And how long was the money left in the account? Well, according to this graph, it goes up to 20 years, so it was left in for 20 years. So now let's take a look at what the difference is between these two different accounts. How big is the difference in after 5 years? So after 5 years, here's 5. I notice that the blue line is a little bit below the red line, but not by a lot. So, and it's really hard to estimate how much that difference is, but it's tiny. So how big is the difference in the account after 5 years? I think all we can say is that it's very small, because this is really hard to measure. Now after 20 years, let's take a look at the difference. So the difference is here and here. So if I read back on the simple interest, it looks like after 20 years, it's about $250,000. That's in the account. That's in the simple interest account. And in the compound interest account, it is looking about $450,000. Those are estimates. This is the compound. So what is the difference between these two? Well, it looks like there's a difference of about $20,000, $200,000, sorry. So there's a $200,000 difference between putting an account in money in a simple interest account versus a compound interest account. And that difference gets bigger and bigger the longer you leave it in the account. So at the beginning, there's hardly any difference, and by the 20 years, there's a big difference. So Nicole inherited $36,000 and wants to invest it for 10 years to save for a house, because she's young now and she doesn't want to buy a house yet, but she knows that it would be good to put it away for that when she gets a little bit older. What is the better investment option for Nicole? So she can put it into a simple interest account at 4.5%. So let's use our simple interest calculations that we do using our formula. So I equals P times R times T. That's the simple interest formula. The principal is $36,000. The interest rate is 4.5%. which we have to convert to a decimal. So 4.5 over 100 is 0.045, and she's going to leave it in the account for 10 years. So we're going to put that into our formula. So $36,000 times 0.045 times 10. Simple calculator work. We'll show you that that's $16,200. So that's just the interest that she's made. So that means at the end of the game, the final amount she has in her bank account is the $36,000 she put in originally, plus the simple interest, which equals $52,000. So that's how much she has when she's ready to buy her house. Now let's compare that to the option B, and because this is a compound interest problem, we are going to use our online calculator for that. So we're back to our online calculator. We've got an initial investment of $36,000, and we're not adding anything to that savings, but the interest rate is 4.5%, and it's compounded annually, and she's leaving it in there for 10 years. So we're going to calculate. And notice it's $55,906.90. So she's made quite a bit more in her compound interest account than in her simple interest account. So let's take a look again at those options and recap. For the simple interest, she made $52,000, or her value of investment is $53,000, and when she put it in a compound interest account, it's $55,000, or nearly $56,000. So what is the better investment option for Nicole? To put it in a compound interest account. And why? Because she's going to earn way more interest in a compound interest account.